I am Rebecca Mitchell, 32 years old, and 6 years ago I founded BloomTech from nothing but a dream and determination. My software company grew into a multi-million-dollar success with my family by my side. My brother, sister, and father became my executive team, and I believed family meant loyalty in business. How wrong I was. This morning, a single text from my brother appeared on my phone. Board voted for restructuring. Security will meet you at the door tomorrow. If you have ever trusted family with your business, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. Hit subscribe to follow my journey of betrayal and sweet, calculated revenge. I graduated from Stanford with a computer science degree and big dreams of creating software that would revolutionize how businesses handled their data security. While my classmates rushed to take prestigious jobs at Google and Microsoft, I had a vision that burned too bright to ignore. I wanted to build something of my own, something that would make a difference in the world. BloomTech began in my tiny garage apartment with just a laptop and an unhealthy amount of determination. Those early days were brutal. I would wake up at 5 in the morning and code until midnight, fueled by cheap coffee and protein bars. The first version of our security software took me 3 months of nonstop work, sleeping on a mattress right next to my desk because I could not bear to waste time walking to a proper bedroom. The breakthrough came when I created an encryption algorithm that was both more secure and more efficient than anything on the market. I knew I had something special, but I needed help to turn it into a real business. That was when I turned to my family. My brother Tom had just finished his MBA and was working at a marketing firm in Chicago. I called him at 2 in the morning, too excited to wait until a reasonable hour. "Tom, I need you to quit your job and come work with me," I said, not even bothering with a hello. "Becca, are you drunk?" he asked, his voice groggy with sleep. "I just finished the code. It works. This could be huge, and I need someone who understands marketing and business development." After a long pause, he sighed. "Send me the business plan. I will look at it tomorrow." 2 weeks later, Tom was my chief marketing officer. His expertise helped shape our business model and target the right clients. My sister Amanda was next. She had always been the organized one in the family, the one who could make anything run smoothly. She was working as an operations manager for a retail chain, and it took less convincing to bring her on board. "I have been waiting for you to ask," she said when I finally called her. "Tom will not stop talking about how brilliant your software is. I want in." With Amanda handling operations, we began to function like a real company. She set up our office systems, hired our first employees, and created the structure that allowed us to scale up quickly. The final piece was my father, Richard. He had spent 30 years in corporate finance and was nearing retirement. When I approached him about becoming our CFO, he seemed hesitant. "Are you sure you want to mix family and business this much, Rebecca?" he asked. "It can complicate relationships." "Dad, I trust you all more than anyone. Who better to build this with than the people who have supported me my whole life?" He smiled at that, the proud smile I had been chasing since childhood. "All right then, let me talk to your mother about postponing our retirement plans." With my family, as my executive team, BloomTech, grew rapidly. Within 2 years, we had 50 employees and a downtown office space. Our security software was being used by mid-size companies across the country, and we were starting to get attention from bigger players. Family gatherings became strategy sessions. Sunday dinners at my parents' house would inevitably turn to business discussions. We had inside jokes about our competitors and celebrated every new client with champagne, no matter how small the contract. I remember the night we landed our first major client, a financial services company, that signed a $2 million contract. We were all at the office when the signed agreement came through. Amanda screamed so loud that people from other floors came running to see what happened. My father opened a bottle of 30-year-old scotch he had been saving. Tom picked me up and spun me around until we were both dizzy. "You did it, Becca," he said, setting me down. "You actually did it." "We did it," I corrected him. "This is a family victory." That night, we had a celebration dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city. Looking around the table at my family, all of them glowing with success and possibility, I felt complete. My father raised a toast to me, calling me his brilliant girl and saying how proud he was. My mother, though not involved in the business, beamed with pride. Amanda and Tom joked about buying vacation homes with their future millions. I thought that moment marked the beginning of our dynasty, a family that would build something lasting together, supporting each other every step of the way. I had such grand visions for where we would go next: international expansion, new product lines, maybe even going public one day. How could I have known that the success we celebrated that night would plant the seeds of betrayal, that the very people raising glasses to my vision would one day lock me out of it? They say business and family do not mix. I should have listened. But in those early days, with the future stretched bright before us, it seemed like the perfect combination. I trusted them completely. After all, who could be more loyal than the people who had known and loved you your entire life? It would be another 2 years before I began to notice the cracks forming in our perfect family business. 2 years of growth and success that made BloomTech too tempting a prize for greed to resist. 2 years before I would learn the hardest lesson of my life. The first signs were so subtle that I dismissed them. A closed-door meeting that I was not invited to. Tom and Amanda exchanging glances during my presentations. Small things that could easily be explained away as normal business operations. We had grown to over 100 employees by then, with annual revenue approaching $10 million. Success had come faster than any of us had anticipated, and with it came growing pains. I told myself that the tension I was feeling was just part of scaling a business. Then one day I walked past the conference room and heard my name. I paused outside the door, not intending to eavesdrop, but curious why my father was having a meeting I did not know about. Rebecca is brilliant with the technology. No one is disputing that, my father was saying, but her leadership style is becoming a problem as we grow. The developers worship her, Tom replied, but the business team finds her difficult to work with, too controlling. She still runs this place like a startup, Amanda added. We need more professional management if we want to keep growing. I stood frozen, hurt washing over me in waves. These were not business concerns being discussed openly with me. This was a family meeting about me behind my back. I pushed the door open. 3 pairs of eyes snapped to me, widening in surprise. If you have concerns about my leadership, I said, my voice steady, despite the turmoil inside, I would appreciate hearing them directly. My father recovered first. Rebecca, we were just discussing some feedback from the team. Nothing serious. We were going to bring it up at our next executive meeting. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak further, and walked away. That night, I called my best friend Hannah and told her what happened. Be careful, Becca, she warned. I have seen this before. Family businesses can turn ugly when money gets involved. They would never try to push me out, I said with confidence. I did not entirely feel. This is my company. I founded it. Just watch your back, Hannah insisted. And maybe talk to a lawyer about making sure your position is secure. I dismissed her concerns as paranoia. These were the people who had helped me build BloomTech from nothing. We had struggles and disagreements, but we would work through them as a family. The next warning sign came a month later, when a venture capital firm approached us about investing. They offered $20 million for a 30% stake in the company. It was a generous valuation, but I was hesitant. Taking on investors would mean giving up some control, and I had always envisioned BloomTech as a family company. To my surprise, my family was unanimously in favor of the deal. This is how companies grow, Rebecca, my father, explained during our executive meeting. We cannot fund our expansion plans without outside capital. We have been profitable for 2 years, I countered. We can grow more slowly on our own terms. The market will not wait, Tom argued. Our competitors are raising millions. We need to scale now, or lose our advantage. The meeting ended in a stalemate. I had the final say as majority shareholder and CEO, and I decided we would hold off on outside investment for at least another year. The disappointment on their faces was palpable, but I stood firm. After that meeting, things began to change more rapidly. I noticed that my access to certain financial reports was delayed or restricted. My father claimed it was a new system they were implementing for better security, but it felt like I was being deliberately kept in the dark about aspects of my own company. Tom began questioning my decisions in front of employees, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere in meetings. Amanda scheduled important client meetings when I was unavailable, then apologized for the oversight. The situation came to a head during a board meeting about our product roadmap. I had developed plans for a new security product that would require significant investment, but could potentially double our market. "This is too risky," my father said bluntly. "We should focus on our core products and clients." "I agree with Dad," Amanda chimed in. "The financials do not support this kind of speculative development." "We have not even run the complete financial projections yet," I pointed out, frustration building. "Actually, we have," Tom said, sliding a folder across the table. "Finance put these together last week." I stared at the document dated 8 days earlier that I was seeing for the first time. Why was I not consulted on this analysis? "We did not want to bother you with preliminary numbers," my father said smoothly. "You have been so busy with the technical side." The meeting ended with my proposal tabled indefinitely. As everyone filed out, I sat alone in the conference room, a sinking feeling in my stomach. Hannah's warning echoed in my mind. That night, I called her again. "Something is happening," I admitted. "I cannot put my finger on it exactly, but it feels like they are trying to sideline me." "Have you checked the company bylaws?" Hannah asked. "What protections do you have as founder?" "I own 51% of the shares," I said. "They cannot make major decisions without my approval." "That is good," she replied. "But be careful. Family can hurt you in ways strangers never could." I should have taken her warning more seriously. Instead, I convinced myself that we could work through these issues, that my family would never truly betray me, that blood would ultimately prove thicker than money. I was wrong on all counts. The next few months were a masterclass in corporate manipulation. I began to document everything, keeping detailed notes of each incident that felt wrong. The pattern became undeniable. One Tuesday morning, I arrived early to prepare for an important client meeting. As I walked past my assistant's desk, I noticed a document she was printing, labeled BloomTech Restructuring Proposal. "What is this?" I asked, picking up the page. She paled. "Mr. Mitchell asked me to print it for a meeting this afternoon. I thought you knew about it." I scanned the document quickly. It outlined a complete reorganization of the executive team, with a new position of executive chairperson to be filled by my father. The CEO role would remain, but with redefined responsibilities, focusing on technical direction rather than overall company leadership. They were planning to strip me of real power while letting me keep my title, and they had not even discussed it with me. I took the document to my father's office and closed the door behind me. "Explain this," I said, placing it on his desk. He glanced at it, then leaned back in his chair with a sigh. "This was supposed to be a preliminary discussion. Nothing has been decided." A preliminary discussion that does not include the CEO and majority shareholder, A. Discussion about fundamentally changing the leadership structure of my company. "Our company," he corrected. "And yes, the board has concerns about the current structure. We are just exploring options." "The board consists of you, Tom, Amanda, and me. When exactly did the other 3 board members discuss this without me?" He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Rebecca, we are just trying to do what is best for BloomTech. The company has outgrown its startup phase, and we need more conventional leadership." "Conventional leadership," I repeated, "meaning not me." "No one is trying to push you out," he insisted. "We value your technical genius, but running a growing company requires different skills." I left his office feeling sick. The betrayal was taking shape, becoming more concrete with each passing day. Over the next few weeks, I noticed my family members having closed-door meetings with key employees. Several department heads who had been loyal to me suddenly became distant. Projects I initiated faced mysterious delays and obstacles. The situation reached a new level when I discovered I had been excluded from a meeting with our largest client. I only found out when the client executive mentioned yesterday's productive session during a phone call. "Which session was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "The strategy meeting at your office. Your brother gave an impressive presentation on the 5-year plan." 5-year plan? I had never seen a 5-year plan. That evening, I confronted Tom in his office. "Why was I not informed about the meeting with Westbrook Financial?" I demanded. He did not even look up from his computer. "It was just a preliminary discussion. We were going to brief you once we had something concrete to present. I am the CEO of this company. There should not be meetings with our biggest client that I do not know about." He finally looked at me, and the coldness in his eyes shocked me. "Rebecca, you need to start trusting your executive team to handle these relationships. You cannot micromanage everything." "This is not about micromanaging. This is about being deliberately excluded from crucial business matters." He sighed as if I were a child having a tantrum. "We will include you in the next meeting." As I turned to leave, I noticed a presentation deck on his desk, with the logo of Marcus Reynolds International, a notorious corporate raider, known for buying companies, stripping their assets, and laying off employees. The company culture was changing too. Employees could sense the tension, and it affected morale. People who had been enthusiastic and committed began updating their resumes. The vibrant, innovative atmosphere I had worked so hard to create was being replaced by something corporate and cold. I needed objective advice, so I reached out to Grace Chen, a former professor who had become a mentor to me. We met for coffee at a place far from the office. "They are trying to push me out," I told her after explaining the situation. "My own family." Grace listened thoughtfully. "It is not uncommon in family businesses. Success changes people, and money complicates relationships." "What should I do?" "First, protect yourself legally. Make sure your ownership stake is secure. Second, try to understand their perspective. Is there any truth to their concerns about your leadership?" I considered this. I am not perfect. I can be demanding and impatient sometimes, but I have built this company from nothing, and our success is not an accident. Then perhaps a compromise is possible. Could you bring in an experienced COO to handle the business operations while you focus on vision and technology? I nodded. That seems reasonable. I will suggest it at our next board meeting. But when I raised the idea, it was immediately shot down. "We do not need another executive," my father said. "The issue is not about adding more cooks to the kitchen." "Then what is the issue exactly?" I pressed. Amanda exchanged glances with Tom before responding. "The issue is that you refuse to acknowledge that BloomTech has outgrown your capabilities." The words hit me like a physical blow. My own sister saying I was not capable of leading the company I had created. The final straw came when our latest product launch was delayed because of technical issues I had not been informed about. When I investigated, I discovered that Tom had instructed the development team to change key specifications without consulting me. The changes had introduced bugs that set us back by weeks and threatened a contract worth millions. When I confronted him, his response chilled me. "Perhaps if you spent more time managing your team effectively and less time playing the visionary, these issues would not happen." That night I stayed late at the office going through financial records I still had access to. What I found disturbed me deeply. My family members had approved substantial bonuses for themselves while claiming we needed to cut costs elsewhere. There were consulting fees paid to companies I had never heard of, with vague descriptions of services rendered. I took pictures of everything with my phone, my hands shaking with anger and betrayal. The evidence was irrefutable. While preaching financial responsibility to me, they had been enriching themselves at the company's expense. The next evening was our monthly family dinner at my parents' house. I debated not going, but I wanted to look them in the eyes to see if I could detect any guilt or shame. The dinner was excruciating. We made small talk about everything except what was happening at BloomTech. My mother, oblivious to the tension, chatted about her garden club and neighborhood gossip. My father, Tom, and Amanda acted as if everything was normal, as if they were not actively working to push me out of my own company. As my mother served dessert, I could not take it anymore. "When were you planning to tell me about the restructuring plan?" I asked, my voice cutting through the artificial pleasantness. The table went silent. My mother looked confused. "What restructuring plan?" "The one where Dad becomes executive chair, and I get demoted to a figurehead position." I turned to my mother. "Did they tell you they are planning to push me out of my own company?" "Rebecca, that is not what is happening," my father said, his voice stern. "And this is hardly the time or place for this discussion." "When is the time?" "When you have already taken everything from me." Amanda rolled her eyes. "Always so dramatic. No one is taking anything from you." "Really? Not the company I built, not my position, not my authority, not even my relationships with our clients." "You built it, but you cannot take it to the next level," Tom said coldly. "Sometimes founders need to step aside for the good of the company." I stood up, unable to sit at that table for another minute. I never thought my own family would betray me like this. I trusted you. I brought you in. I made you rich. And this is how you repay me. As I walked to the door, my father called after me. "Rebecca, you are overreacting. Let us talk about this rationally." I turned back one last time. There is nothing rational about betrayal. That night alone in my apartment, I faced the truth I had been avoiding for months. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a difference of opinion about business strategy. This was a calculated plan to take my company away from me, and it was being orchestrated by the people I loved most in the world. I barely slept that night, my mind racing with hurt and anger and fear. By morning, I had made a decision. I would not go down without a fight. BloomTech was mine, and I would protect it even from my own family. I had no idea then that events would escalate so quickly, or that within 48 hours everything would change forever. The next morning, I drove to the office earlier than usual, my mind clear, despite the sleepless night. I had decided to call an emergency board meeting to address the issues directly. As majority shareholder, I still had that power. When I reached the office building and swiped my keycard at the entrance, the security panel flashed red. I tried again with the same result. A security guard approached me. "Miss Mitchell, I need you to come with me, please." "My card is not working," I explained. "Yes, ma'am. I have instructions to escort you to the conference room." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Instructions from whom? "From Mr. Mitchell, your father. The rest of the board is waiting for you." So this was how it would happen, not even the courtesy of a warning. I followed the security guard, acutely aware of employees watching as I was escorted through my own building like an intruder. The conference room door opened to reveal my father, Tom, and Amanda, seated on one side of the table. Their faces were masks of professional detachment. 3 other people I did not recognize sat beside them. "Rebecca," my father said formally, "please have a seat." I remained standing. "What is going on?" Tom slid a document across the table. "The board has voted to remove you as CEO effective immediately." I stared at him, unable to process the words. "That is not possible. I own 51% of this company." As you will see in Section 3 of the bylaws, one of the strangers said the board can remove an officer who has demonstrated conduct detrimental to the company. "Conduct detrimental," I repeated, incredulous. "I founded this company. Our revenue has grown every quarter under my leadership." "Your management style has become increasingly erratic," Amanda said, not meeting my eyes. You have alienated key employees and clients. Your focus on unproven technologies threatens our core business. That is not true, and you know it, I said, my voice rising. This is a coup, plain and simple. We have documented evidence, my father said, pushing a folder toward me. Testimonials from employees about your hostile behavior. Complaints from clients about missed deadlines and communication issues. I opened the folder to find a carefully curated collection of half-truths and exaggerations. Minor disagreements reframed as major conflicts. Moments of passion or frustration described as instability. You manufactured this, I said, closing the folder. You have been building a case against me for months. You are too emotionally attached to see the situation clearly, Tom said. BloomTech has outgrown you, Rebecca. We need professional management now. Professional management, I repeated. Like you three. The people who have been padding their compensation and making backroom deals, while pretending to care about the company's future. My father's face hardened. That is enough. Security will escort you to your office to collect your personal belongings. Your company email and access have been terminated. I looked at each of them in turn. These people who shared my blood, who had sat at holiday tables with me my entire life. Do Mom and Uncle Jack know what you are doing? A flicker of discomfort crossed my father's face. This is a business decision, not a family matter. I laughed bitterly. Everything about this is a family matter. You have just destroyed our family for money. You need to leave now, Amanda said, her voice cold. Do not make this more difficult than it needs to be. The security guard stepped forward, waiting to escort me out. The humiliation burned through me as I realized employees would watch me clean out my desk, would see me escorted from the building like a criminal. I built this company, I said, my voice breaking despite my best efforts. Everything you have came from my work, my vision. And we are grateful, my father said, not sounding grateful at all. You will be well compensated for your shares once a fair valuation is completed. I turned and walked out, without another word, the security guard following close behind. At my office, a box had already been placed on my desk for my belongings. Someone had been through my things. The drawers were partially open, files obviously searched. As I mechanically placed personal items in the box, my phone buzzed with a text message from Tom. Expect a call from our lawyer. We are offering a fair buyout for your shares. I did not respond. Employees watched through glass walls as I carried my box to the elevator. Some looked confused. Others uncomfortable. A few seemed to understand what was happening and had the decency to appear dismayed. In the parking garage, I placed the box in my trunk, got into my car, and sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Only then, in the privacy of my car, did I allow the tears to come. I sobbed until I could barely breathe, the full weight of the betrayal crushing me. This was not just about losing a company. It was about losing my family, my identity, my life's work, all at once. When the tears finally subsided, I drove home in a daze. My apartment felt alien, as if I had stepped into someone else's life. I placed the box from my office in a corner and sat on my couch staring at nothing. My phone kept buzzing with messages from friends and colleagues who had heard the news. I ignored them all. What could I possibly say? That my family had conspired against me. That everything I had built had been taken from me in a single morning. As night fell, I remained on the couch, replaying every interaction from the past 6 months, seeing all the warning signs I had ignored. The closed-door meetings, the gradual exclusion from key decisions, the growing coldness in my siblings' eyes when they looked at me. I thought of all the family dinners where we had laughed together, all the celebrations of company milestones, all the late nights working side by side. Had it all been a lie? Had they been planning this betrayal even in those moments of apparent closeness? The pain was physical, a crushing weight on my chest that made it difficult to breathe. I had never felt so alone, so utterly abandoned. The people I had trusted most in the world had orchestrated my downfall with cold precision. That night, I questioned everything about my life and my relationships. If my own family could betray me so completely, who could I ever trust again? What was the point of building something, if it could be taken away? Why had I worked so hard, sacrificed so much, only to end up here? I scrolled through photos on my phone, images of happier times with my family, with the BloomTech team. In one picture from our holiday party just months ago, we were all smiling, arms around each other like the united front I believed we were. The contrast between that image and the cold faces across the conference table today was too much to bear. I turned off my phone and curled up on the couch, too exhausted even to make it to my bed. As I drifted into an uneasy sleep, one thought kept circling in my mind. This could not be how my story ended. There had to be a way to fight back, to reclaim what was mine. I just had no idea yet what that might be. I woke the next morning with swollen eyes, and a clarity I had not felt in months. Something Tom had said during our confrontation nagged at me. You will be well compensated for your shares. My shares. My 51% ownership of BloomTech. They had removed me as CEO, but they could not take my status as majority shareholder without my consent. In their arrogance, they had overlooked this crucial detail, assuming I would sell under pressure. I reached for my phone and called Daniel Peterson, a lawyer I had consulted when setting up the company. He agreed to see me immediately. In his office, I laid out everything that had happened. Can they really remove me as CEO like this? I asked, after explaining the situation. Daniel reviewed the company bylaws carefully. Unfortunately, yes. Section 3 does give the board the power to remove an officer under certain circumstances. They have technically followed the proper procedure, even if their evidence is questionable. My heart sank. So I have lost the company. Not at all, Daniel said, looking up from the documents. You still own 51% of BloomTech. While they can remove you as an officer, they cannot force you to sell your shares. Without your approval, they cannot make any major changes to the company structure, raise significant funding, or sell the business. Hope flickered to life. So I still have control. Not day-to-day control, but ultimate control, yes. They need your vote for any significant corporate action. I sat back, mind racing. What if I sold my shares to someone else? Someone who would oppose their plans? Daniel raised an eyebrow. That would certainly be within your rights. But finding a buyer quickly who would pay fair value would be challenging. What if I already know someone who might be interested? Over the next few hours, I used Daniel's office to do some digging. First, I searched for information on Marcus Reynolds International, the company whose logo I had seen on Tom's desk. What I found confirmed my worst fears. Reynolds had a reputation for acquiring promising tech companies, extracting their valuable intellectual property, and then gutting them. Companies he acquired typically saw 60 to 70% staff reductions within a year. The original founders were pushed out, regardless of any promises made during acquisition. Was this my family's plan, to sell BloomTech to Reynolds? After pushing me out, the thought of my loyal employees losing their jobs, of my technology being stripped and repurposed, made me sick. I needed to find out more. I called Melissa, a junior developer at BloomTech, who had always been loyal to me. Melissa, I need your help, I said when she answered. This is completely confidential. Miss Mitchell, I heard what happened. It is not right what they did to you. Thank you. I need to know if there have been meetings with Marcus Reynolds, or his representatives. There was a pause. Yes, they have been here twice in the past month. Most recently, yesterday afternoon, right after you left. My stomach twisted. Do you know what was discussed? I was not in the meetings, but Ryan from legal said they are talking about an acquisition. The rumor is $50 million for the company. That confirmed it. They were planning to sell as soon as they had forced me out and bought my shares at a discount. One more thing, I said. Have there been any other potential acquirers looking at the company? Adrian Blackwood, from Blackwood Ventures, had meetings here about 2 months ago, but your brother ended those discussions. Adrian Blackwood. The name sparked an idea. Blackwood Ventures had a reputation for preserving the companies they acquired for building, rather than dismantling. And I had met Adrian at a conference last year, where he had expressed admiration for BloomTech's technology. I thanked Melissa and ended the call, then immediately searched for Adrian's contact information. His assistant put me through surprisingly quickly. "Rebecca Mitchell," Adrian said warmly. "I was sorry to hear about the situation at BloomTech. Corporate politics can be brutal, especially in family businesses." "News travels fast," I said. "In our industry, always. What can I do for you?" "I understand you had some interest in BloomTech a few months ago." "Indeed. Your encryption technology is impressive, and your market position is strong. But your brother made it clear the company was not for sale. What if I told you that I still own 51% of BloomTech, and I might be interested in selling those shares?" There was a pause. That would certainly get my attention. "But I thought you were deeply committed to the company. Why would you sell your controlling interest?" I explained the situation, including my discovery about the potential sale to Reynolds. "Reynolds would destroy everything we built," I concluded. "The employees, the culture, the technology, all sacrificed for a quick profit." "And you would rather sell to me than let that happen," Adrian said, understanding dawning in his voice. "Yes, but with conditions. I need guarantees about how the company will be run, how employees will be treated." "I would want you involved," Adrian said. "Your technical expertise is a major part of BloomTech's value." "That might be complicated given the current situation." "Perhaps. But not insurmountable. When can we meet?" 2 hours later, I sat across from Adrian in a private conference room at his office. He had brought his legal team and his CFO. I had Daniel with me for legal support. Before we discuss price, I said I need to be clear about my conditions. First, no mass layoffs. The team at BloomTech is exceptional and loyal. Adrian nodded. "I agree. We do not acquire companies to gut them." Second, the core technology remains intact and continues to be developed according to the roadmap I created. That is precisely why we would want to acquire BloomTech. Third, I continued, my family members are removed from their executive positions. Adrian raised an eyebrow at this. That could be legally complicated given their employment contracts. They violated their fiduciary duties by pursuing personal gain at the company's expense. I have documentation. I placed a folder on the table containing the evidence I had gathered about their financial self-dealing. Adrian reviewed it thoughtfully. This would certainly give us grounds for termination. But are you sure that is what you want? They are still your family. The question hit me harder than expected. Despite everything, these were people I had loved my entire life. Was I really prepared to destroy their careers in retaliation? I thought of my father's cold face across the conference table, of Amanda's refusal to meet my eyes, of Tom's cruel dismissal of everything I had built. They made their choice, I said finally. They chose business over family. I am simply doing the same. Adrian nodded, accepting my decision without judgment. Let us talk numbers then. The negotiation lasted 3 hours. By the end, we had a deal. Blackwood Ventures would purchase my 51% stake for $37 million, a fair valuation that reflected both the company's current success and its future potential. More importantly, Adrian committed in writing to all my conditions. The employees would be protected, the technology would be preserved and developed, and my family members would be removed from their positions once the acquisition was complete. As the lawyers drafted the final documents, Adrian pulled me aside. Are you absolutely certain about this, Rebecca? Once you sign, there is no going back. For a moment I hesitated. BloomTech had been my life for 6 years. I had poured everything into it, sacrificed relationships, health, and balance to make it succeed. Selling my shares meant giving up control of my creation forever. But the alternative was watching Reynolds dismantle it piece by piece after my family sold out. At least this way what I built would continue. My employees would keep their jobs. My technology would keep making a difference. I am certain, I said, finally. By late afternoon, the documents were signed. I was no longer the controlling shareholder of BloomTech. For the first time in 6 years, my future was entirely uncertain. As I left Adrian's office, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. Something precious had been taken from me, but I had found a way to protect it even in losing it. And the $37 million now being transferred to my account meant I would have the resources to start again if I chose to. I checked my phone to find 3 more messages from Tom, each more insistent than the last, all demanding that I call him about the buyout offer. Their lawyer had apparently been trying to reach me all day. I smiled grimly and typed a single word in response. Understood. Then I turned off my phone and went home to wait for the storm I knew was coming. The first call came less than 2 hours later. I had turned my phone back on, curious about the timing. Tom's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. The second call followed almost immediately. Then a text, "Rebecca, call me ASAP. It is extremely important." I set my phone aside and made myself a cup of tea, feeling a strange calm. For months, I had been reacting to their manipulations, always on the defensive. Now, finally, I had taken action on my own terms. By evening, my phone was exploding with notifications. 25 missed calls in total. 15 from Tom, 7 from my father, 3 from Amanda. Numerous text messages and voicemails, each more urgent than the last. I listened to them in order, tracking the progression from imperious demands to mounting panic. "Rebecca, we need to discuss the buyout offer immediately. Call me." Tom's first message, still confident and commanding. "This is ridiculous. Pick up your phone. We have a situation that needs your immediate attention." My father, clearly annoyed but not yet alarmed. By the 10th message, the tone had changed dramatically. "Rebecca, whatever you are doing, stop immediately. You do not understand the consequences of your actions." Tom's voice now held a note of desperation. The 15th message revealed why. "We just got a call from Marcus Reynolds. He says the deal is off because ownership has changed." "What have you done?" My father, actual fear in his voice now. The 20th message removed all doubt that they understood exactly what had happened. "Adrian Blackwood just called. He says he now owns 51% of BloomTech. Tell me this is not true. Tell me you did not sell your shares without consulting us." Tom nearly shouting now. The final message from my father was quieter, but no less intense. "Rebecca, there is an emergency board meeting tomorrow at 9. Adrian Blackwood will be there. You need to be there too. We need to understand why you have done this to your family." I smiled at that last part. Done this to my family. As if I had been the one to betray them. I sent a brief text to my father, "I will attend the meeting." Then I called Adrian to ensure we were aligned on how to handle tomorrow's confrontation. "They have called an emergency board meeting," I told him. "Yes, I know. I will be there, along with my legal team." "What should I expect?" Adrian's voice was calm, reassuring. "Anger, accusations, possibly threats. But legally there is nothing they can do. The sale was completely legitimate." "Will you announce the leadership changes tomorrow?" "Yes, better to do it all at once. Will you be all right facing them?" I considered the question seriously. "Yes. This will be difficult, but I need to see it through." That night, I slept better than I had in months. The weight of fighting a losing battle against my own family had been lifted. Whatever happened next, I had protected my company and my employees as best I could. The next morning, I dressed carefully in my most professional outfit, a navy blue suit that projected confidence and authority. This would be the last time I entered the BloomTech offices as anything other than a visitor, and I wanted to leave on my own terms. When I arrived, the receptionist looked startled to see me. "Miss Mitchell, they are waiting for you in the main conference room." I nodded, and headed there directly back straight head high. As I walked through the office, employees stared openly. News of yesterday's ownership change had clearly spread. I pushed open the conference room door to find a tableau of tension. My father, Tom, and Amanda sat clustered at one end of the table, faces drawn with stress and anger. Adrian and two members of his legal team sat at the other end, calm and professional. In the middle, looking uncomfortable, were the company's legal counsel and CFO. Rebecca, Adrian said, standing to greet me. "Thank you for joining us." I took a seat beside him, directly across from my family. No one spoke for a moment. My father broke the silence. "Would someone like to explain what is going on?" Adrian nodded professionally. "Certainly. Yesterday I acquired Rebecca's 51% stake in BloomTech. Blackwood Ventures is now the controlling shareholder of the company." "This is outrageous," Tom exploded. "A clear breach of fiduciary duty. Rebecca had an obligation to present any purchase offer to the board." Adrian's lawyer shook her head. "That is incorrect. As a shareholder, Miss Mitchell had every right to sell her personal shares to whomever she chose. There was no legal requirement to consult the board." "We had a pending offer from Marcus Reynolds," my father said. "A better offer." "Better for whom?" I asked, speaking for the first time. "Not for the employees who would lose their jobs. Not for the clients who depend on our technology. Not for the company I built." "You had no right to make this decision unilaterally," Amanda said, her voice shaking with anger. "Like you had no right to remove me, as CEO," I countered. "Like you had no right to plan a sale to Reynolds without consulting me." "That was different," my father insisted. "The board vote was procedurally correct." Perhaps Adrian interjected smoothly, but the documentation Miss Mitchell provided suggests serious breaches of fiduciary duty by the current executive team. Unauthorized bonuses, questionable consulting contracts with family connections. These will all need to be investigated. My family exchanged alarmed glances. They had not expected me to have evidence of their financial improprieties. "Now," Adrian continued, "I would like to announce some organizational changes effective immediately. As the new controlling shareholder, I am appointing a new board of directors and executive team." He slid documents across the table. "Richard Thomas and Amanda Mitchell are relieved of their duties, effective immediately. Severance details are included in these packets." The shock on their faces would have been satisfying if it were not also painful. Despite everything, seeing my family humiliated brought me no joy. "You cannot do this," my father sputtered. "We have contracts." "Contracts that include clauses about breach of fiduciary duty," Adrian's lawyer noted. "The evidence is quite clear." "Rebecca," Tom said, turning to me with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "How could you do this to your own family?" The question hung in the air, heavy with accusation and betrayal. All eyes turned to me, waiting for my response. I took a deep breath, determined to remain calm and dignified. "How could I? You removed me from the company I founded. You manufactured evidence against me. You planned to sell to a corporate raider who would destroy everything we built. And you ask how I could do this?" I stood up, needing them to hear my next words, while I looked them in the eyes. "You taught me a valuable lesson about business and family. You showed me that when money is involved, blood ties mean nothing. I simply applied what I learned from you." "We were trying to do what was best for the company," my father insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. "No," I said quietly. "You were doing what was best for yourselves. The difference is that I found a solution that protects our employees and our technology, while you were willing to sacrifice both for a bigger payout." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "This company is all we have." "I know," I replied. "That is why your betrayal hurt so much, because BloomTech was everything to me too." Adrian cleared his throat gently. "I believe we have covered everything necessary for today. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings." The irony was not lost on anyone in the room. Just 48 hours ago, I had been escorted out in the same way. As they stood to leave, my father paused beside my chair. This is not over, Rebecca. Families should not treat each other this way. I looked up at him. The man who had once been my hero, now a stranger. You are right. Families should not treat each other the way you treated me. After they left, Adrian turned to me. Are you all right? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The confrontation had taken more out of me than I expected. The hard part is over, he said gently. Now we can focus on moving forward. But as I walked out of the BloomTech offices for the last time, I knew the hardest part was still to come. I had protected my company at the cost of my family. The real challenge would be learning to live with that choice. 6 months passed in a blur of both grief and opportunity. With the proceeds from selling my shares, I rented a small office space and began working on a new venture, a platform for secure communication in healthcare settings. The work helped fill the void left by BloomTech, giving me purpose and direction when I needed it most. The healing process was neither quick nor easy. For weeks after the confrontation, I alternated between vindication and heartbreak. I would wake up feeling strong and justified one day, then be overwhelmed by loss the next. My family had been my foundation for 32 years. Without them, I sometimes felt adrift, despite my financial security and new professional focus. Hannah proved invaluable during this time, checking on me daily and forcing me out of the apartment when I began to isolate myself. She never once said "I told you so," though she had indeed warned me about mixing family and business. You could not have known they would take it this far, she said one evening, as we shared takeout in my new office. You trusted the people who should have been most trustworthy. I keep wondering if I could have prevented it somehow, I admitted. If I had been less controlling, more willing to compromise. Stop that, Hannah said firmly. They made their choices. You did not force them to conspire behind your back or to plan a sale that would hurt everyone who worked for you. Gradually, I began to rebuild. 3 key employees from BloomTech resigned after the ownership change and asked to join my new venture. Their loyalty touched me deeply. These were people who had witnessed my family's betrayal firsthand and still chose to follow me. BloomTech is not the same without you, said Jason, my former lead developer. Adrian is trying, but your brother poisoned a lot of wells before he left. I hired all 3 without hesitation, grateful for both their skills and their vote of confidence. Together we began building something new, applying lessons from both the successes and failures at BloomTech. News about my family came sporadically, mainly through mutual connections. They had all found new positions, though none as prestigious or lucrative as their roles at BloomTech. The company itself was thriving under Adrian's leadership. He had kept his promise to maintain the team and continue developing the core technology. 4 months after the sale, I received an unexpected call from Adrian. I thought you might like to know that your healthcare security concept has real potential, he said after our initial greetings. I have some contacts in that sector who would be interested in seeing your prototype when it is ready. That is generous of you, I said, surprised by the offer. Why help me with a new venture that might eventually compete with BloomTech? First, because you acted honorably in a difficult situation. Second, because there is plenty of room in the market for both companies. And third, because I believe in backing talented founders, even if they have had setbacks. His words helped validate my decision to start over. If someone like Adrian could see value in my new direction, perhaps I was on the right path after all. 5 months after the sale, I had an unexpected encounter. I was leaving a coffee shop when I nearly collided with my father on the sidewalk. We both froze, startled by the sudden confrontation. He looked older, the lines in his face deeper than I remembered. Rebecca, he said finally, you look well. Thank you, I replied, unsure what else to say. How are you? Managing. He hesitated, then added, BloomTech is doing well under Blackwood. They just announced a new security product that sounds very much like something you would have designed. I nodded. Adrian has kept his promises about the company direction. My father looked down, then back at me. We made a mistake, Rebecca. All of us. We got greedy and short-sighted, and we hurt you terribly in the process. The admission stunned me. I had never expected any acknowledgement of wrongdoing, let alone an apology. Yes, I said simply. You did. Your mother misses you. We all do. Is there any chance we could start to rebuild? Perhaps dinner just to talk. I considered his offer carefully. Part of me yearned to repair the family bonds that had been severed. Another part remained deeply wary of further pain. I am not ready for that, I said finally. The betrayal was too complete, too calculated. I need more time. He nodded, accepting my decision with surprising grace. I understand. When and if you are ever ready, we will be there. As he turned to go, I called after him. Dad, how did Tom and Amanda take the news about being removed from BloomTech? A sad smile crossed his face. Badly at first. Very badly. But it was a valuable lesson about consequences, about how our actions affect others in ways we cannot always predict. A lesson we all learned, I said quietly. He nodded once more, then continued on his way. I watched him go, feeling a complex mixture of emotions, but surprisingly no desire to call him back. 6 months to the day after selling my BloomTech shares, I received an email from Adrian, inviting me to meet about a potential collaboration. My new healthcare security platform had progressed faster than expected, and there were synergies with BloomTech's technology that could benefit both companies. We met at a restaurant near my new office. The conversation focused entirely on business possibilities rather than the past. Your new platform solves a problem we have been struggling with, Adrian admitted. Rather than competing, a partnership makes more sense. I studied him carefully. Is this a roundabout way of trying to acquire my new company? He laughed. Not at all. I learned long ago not to get between Rebecca Mitchell and her vision. This would be a true partnership with you retaining full control of your company. The offer was both generous and strategically sound. We spent the next hour discussing details, and by the end of lunch, we had the outline of an agreement that would benefit both companies while preserving their independence. As we were preparing to leave, Adrian paused. I hope you know that what you did with BloomTech was the right choice. Difficult, painful, but right. The company is stronger for it and the employees are secure. Thank you for saying that, I replied. It helps to hear it sometimes. Walking back to my office after our meeting, I felt a sense of closure that had eluded me for months. BloomTech would always be my first creation, my first success, and my first heartbreak. But it was no longer the definition of my worth or my future. The following week brought another milestone. My new company secured its first major client, a regional hospital network that would implement our security platform across their system. The contract was worth $1.5 million, a fraction of what BloomTech had been generating. But it was a beginning. Our beginning. As my team celebrated with champagne and pizza in our modest office, I looked around at their excited faces and felt a profound sense of gratitude. These people had chosen to believe in me when they had every reason to be skeptical. They had committed to a startup with an uncertain future because they trusted my vision and leadership. In that moment, I understood the most valuable lesson from the BloomTech ordeal. Success was not measured by company valuations or revenue figures. It was measured by the integrity of your relationships and the trust you built with others. My family had sacrificed those intangibles for financial gain and had ultimately lost both. I had lost my company, but preserved the principles that mattered most, and in doing so, found a path to rebuilding something, potentially even more meaningful. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The pain of betrayal had not disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into something more constructive, a hard-won wisdom about business, family, and self-worth. I had learned that true strength comes not from never falling, but from how you rise after being knocked down. That sometimes losing what you thought you could not live without leads to discovering what you truly need. That forgiveness may come eventually, but boundaries are necessary for healing. Most importantly, I had learned that my value was not tied to BloomTech or any other external achievement. It came from within, from the courage to stand up for what was right, even when it hurt, from the resilience to begin again after devastating loss. As I looked toward the future, I felt neither the blind optimism of my early days at BloomTech, nor the crushing despair that followed my ousting. Instead, I felt a grounded confidence, a hard-earned faith in my ability to weather whatever storms might come. The company I was building now would be different, not just in its focus, but in its foundation. Transparency would be a core value. Trust would be earned and maintained. Success would be measured not just in profit, but in purpose and impact. I took out my phone and composed a message to my team. Our first client is just the beginning. Thank you for believing in this vision. Tomorrow we start building something that will last. As I pressed send, I felt the final pieces fall into place. The past could not be changed, but the future was unwritten. And this time I would write it with my eyes wide open, wiser for the scars I carried, but undiminished in my determination to create something meaningful. What would you do if your family betrayed you in business? Would you fight back like I did, or try a different approach? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more true stories of resilience and redemption. And remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most powerful new beginnings. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength and wisdom in your own.